I think fan games are the ultimate showcase of passion for a property. How else can you prove your love for a game with its world and characters and gameplay better than by making an entry of your own? There are a few instances of this being more prevalent than with Five Nights at Freddy's. The amount of fan games is just, well, it's kind of ridiculous. Some create a new spin on FNAF's pre-existing characters and story, others take another intellectual property and combine it with FNAF's mechanics, and others create an entire original cast of their own. So many labors of love, some living up to the original series or even surpassing it, others could use some work. But for over a decade now, the community continues to thrive, in part thanks to Scott Cawthon's support of the scene. All of these fan games had to start somewhere though. Everything you see resulted from someone's idea, and some of those ideas probably seemed a bit silly at first. Considering that a lot of FNAF's audience is children, it's no surprise that many of those kids would come up with something of their own, and it's typically pretty obvious when it was a kid's idea. Though some of those concepts can have pretty surprising results, especially when it comes to property swaps, which is basically just taking a pre-existing property and throwing its characters into a FNAF-style game. I mean, come on, Mickey Mouse with FNAF? There's no way that would work. I see. As you can see, a good FNAF game can have as silly of a concept as you can come up with. It's really about the execution. You can distort popular fictional characters into something genuinely unsettling at times. You could also embrace the goofiness and not take yourself too seriously, and honestly, neither option is more correct than the other. Again, it's all about execution. But today, we aren't talking about well-executed FNAF fan games. Quite the opposite, in fact. Today, we will be looking back through one 7-year-old's fan game concept that took two properties that he loved and completely butchered them in the most laughably bad way possible. A property-swapped fan game concept that 10 years later still hasn't seen itself result in a full complete game, yet has spawned a cringy YouTube series, the worst story ever conceived, game mechanics that don't even exist, and sloppily programmed text adventures. That 7-year-old was me, and the game concept was Five Nights at Mario's. Hey, this seems familiar. I appear to have found myself inside an arcade machine. You might be wondering how I got myself into this situation again. Clearly, you haven't learned from the calculator incident. To understand the concept whose sheer stupidity has kept me up at night to this very day, we have to travel back. Very far back. October 2015. What were you all doing in October of 2015? I wouldn't be surprised if one of you watching this wasn't even alive yet. As for what I was doing in October of 2015, I was 1 month away from turning 8 years old, and I was practicing Taekwondo. I had actually started taking Taekwondo classes during the summer, and in October, the dojo had this event for the younger kids called Ninja Day. I swear this is relevant, please bear with me. Anyways, Ninja Day was basically a bunch of mini challenges back to back, testing skills such as agility and endurance. For example, who could vault over the tallest tower of shields, or how long can you dead hang from a metal bar? The winner of these challenges got tickets that could be spent at the end on prizes. You know, basically little doodads that you would expect from such an event, often vaguely themed around ninjas in some way. Now, as a 7-year-old, you could expect that I wasn't very good at most of these challenges, but the prizes were cheap, and I was able to gain a good few tickets that day. Of all the prizes I could have gotten, I chose a water-filled standing punching bag, which looked pretty much like this, but translucent so you could see the water inside. Me and a couple of my friends who were in my Taekwondo class took the punching bag home, and, well, what exactly do you do with it? You could kick it, I guess, but that gets old fast. Now, this was October of 2015, and we were all 7 years old, meaning that it was the perfect timing for us to be FNAF fans. I mean, of course we were, even if we had barely played the games ourselves and just consumed FNAF content through game theory. And besides that, we only really knew about FNAF itself and not much about the community. We didn't even know that fan games existed. But the series was still on our minds that fateful day, and at some point, one of us had the most random thought. Hey, what if a FNAF game used a punching bag to stop the animatronics? How exactly would that work? Well, you take the punching bag, pull it down, and then let go. It'll swing forward, and to us, it felt like the most powerful weapon in the world. However, we wanted to test out our idea just to see how hard the punching bag could launch an object. We really didn't have much to work with except for some Super Mario plush toys I had in a chest. This is how my friends and I came up with the idea for Five Nights at Mario's, a FNAF fan game with Mario characters. We would test out our game ideas by acting them out in my house using those Mario plushies, which I actually still have in my closet.
Hello, everyone.
Nah. The layout of the game was based on my house, which I will show a simplified version of here because you do not need to see a floor plan of where I live. Basically, this room down here, which is my bedroom, acts as the office, and then we have this hallway here where the animatronics travel down. There's also this bathroom directly across from the office, just so the map isn't a straight line and a square. Now it's a straight line with 2 squares. The 4 animatronics were Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Yoshi, which each corresponded with an animatronic from the original FNAF. The first 3 start here on the stage, while Yoshi starts on the opposite end on his own stage called Yoshi's Island. Everyone moves towards the singular doorway of the office. Luigi goes this way, Toad does the same thing with 1 extra step, Yoshi kind of just stays in one place for a while before sprinting down the hall, and Mario kind of just walks back and forth. Once they get to the doorway though, well, you use the punching bag to make them go away. Yes, the most efficient way to defend yourself from deadly robots. Of course, you can't just use the punching bag willy-nilly. If you try using it while no one's at the door, it breaks, leaving you completely defenseless. And if you use it while Mario's at the door, you just lose instantly. He's the exception to everyone else. For him, you just need to stand still until he walks by. That was pretty much it for the gameplay, except for Night 5. For some reason, we decided that Night 5 would work completely different from the rest of the game, functioning more like FNAF 4. I mean, it was still kind of a novelty at the time, like it was only a few months old. Basically, the lights had gone out, and your punching bag is gone. But you now have an actual door rather than an open doorway. A door you can close, but have to hold shut. You also have a flashlight to shine down the hall in either direction. Now the lights may be out, but you can still access the cameras. This night also introduces this game's Golden Freddy equivalent, and a character that would become the main villain of the story, which we'll get to eventually. This is going to be a long video, isn't it? So, who is our Golden Freddy? Is it Gold Mario? No. Perhaps Bowser? Nuh-uh. Oh, what about an obscure Mario character you wouldn't expect? Still no. The main villain of the Five Nights at Mario series is a Mickey Mouse plush with, I wouldn't even say inverted colors, more like rave colors. I honestly don't remember how I got this thing, but this is our series' Golden Freddy, given the name Imposter Mouse, because that's not what Mickey looks like. If I had to guess why we chose this, well, it's hard to explain the inner machinations of my mind at 7 years old, but it might have something to do with me having a very small collection of plush toys back in 2015 compared to what I would have in the future. So Imposter Mouse works like this on Night 5. There's a new camera showing a secret sealed off room that has no entrances or exits, only a vent. Imposter Mouse starts here, then crawls to that vent into the closet in the office, which definitely do exist and wasn't just there because the office was actually my bedroom anyway. When Imposter Mouse got to the closet from the vent, you'd have to shine the flashlight on him until he went away. And that's it. That's all the gameplay for Five Nights at Mario's. As stupid as it was, my friends and I found it enough to have fun acting it out, at least until the actual punching bag would break just a few weeks later. But I've been referring to Five Nights at Mario's as a series, and that wouldn't make sense if we hadn't come up with a sequel. So how did the idea for a sequel to a game that didn't even exist come about? That Halloween, I decided to dress up as a Minecraft creeper, and the costume was really just a cardboard creeper head that you could wear like a helmet. FNAF 2 has you wearing a mask to defend yourself from the animatronics. What if... Oh! My friends and I came up with the idea of Five Nights at Mario's 2 in early November 2015, and it was basically just take the first game's map, add a couple new rooms, introduce new equivalents for the animatronics introduced in FNAF 2, and then copy that game's mechanics exactly, but remove the small amount of complexity left in that game by having everyone enter through a single doorway in the office. It's genius! The mask was this creeper head, and while the punching bag was something we were never really able to come up with an explanation for in the story, which we'll get to eventually, I promise, We were able to explain the mask being a creeper head. I'm not sure why we felt it was necessary to take the mechanics so literally rather than considering the punching bag or creeper head as a representation of something else. But let's just agree that whenever we come across a question like this that we can't explain, we just point to that sign over there and move on. The only part of this game that wasn't straight up FNAF 2 was a prologue Night 0, which basically just reused Night 5 from Five Nights at Mario's 1 again, and only really matters for the abomination of the story. Speaking of which, there isn't much left to discuss about FNAM 2 without getting into the story, so let's just move on to the next game. As for the rest of the games in this series, my memory of when or how we initially came up with their concepts, or even the details of their mechanics, becomes a bit muddy. If I had to guess, FNAM 3 was probably conceptualized in December 2015 or January 2016. I was 8 at this point, and the ideas for the game shifted from being come up with among my friends and I to mostly just being my ideas. Now, at this point, I finally learned that, hey, our idea of making our own take on FNAF with different characters and occasionally different mechanics was not a unique idea. Yes, I now knew about fan games. And watching my favorite YouTubers play these games made me realize that, one, perhaps an off-colored Mickey Mouse can work in a FNAF game, and second, I don't have to feel like I need to directly copy the mechanics of the official series. Like, FNAM 1 as the punching bag instead of the doors out of necessity. There's no way us kids would have been able to act out a power system. But once we had the tools to replicate an official FNAF mechanic, like the mask, we stopped trying to come up with anything original. I also finally got to play the first 4 FNAF games myself, rather than just watching playthroughs. It was the old mobile versions, but I barely noticed. I especially grew to love FNAF 3, which is still my favorite in the series. I know, it's kind of a hot take. But as much as I loved it, the discovery of fan games had stopped me from just copying its mechanics. So for Five Nights at Mario's 3, I realized that I shouldn't just copy FNAF 3, I should do something different. So I copied a fan game instead. I don't have any vivid memories of watching people play Five Nights at Wario's 3, but in retrospect, there's pretty much no way that I didn't. The YouTubers I did watch at the time played it, and there's no way I came up with this game's premise completely on my own. Five Nights at Wario's 3, despite how it looks, is a work of genius in game design. Now, I don't want to take too much time talking about Wario's 3 because this video is not supposed to be about an actually good FNAF fan game series, but let's just say that there's a reason that Five Nights at Wario's would become its own subcategory of FNAF fan game. FNAF 3 takes place in a mansion haunted by the ghosts of Wario and friends. You start in the living room on night 1, and after each night you get to pick another room in the house to hide in. Each room has its own mechanics and enemies that will come after you, turning a FNAF game into a choose-your-own adventure. Even the individual rooms have mechanics that I haven't seen anywhere else. I mean, using the clock chimes whenever the hour changes to scare off the enemies? How does someone think of stuff like that? Anyways, this game is really good, and so for FNAM 3, I basically copied its exact premise. You're trapped in a big house, and you choose a different room of the house each night to hide in, each with their own mechanics and enemies to worry about. As a result, there isn't really a direct correspondence between the characters in FNAM 3 and FNAF 3, because unlike FNAF 3, where almost every character is a hallucination that just crashes your systems, the ghosts in FNAM 3 can actually kill you. Also, Bowser is here now. Good for him. I don't really remember all the mechanics or rooms in detail, but I know that you started in the center hallway, which is honestly one hell of a location for a first night. You could go into an actual office, a bathroom, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and even a backyard. Of course, the general layout is still based on FNAM 1's map, which is loosely based on my own house, but at least I had the decency to shift rooms around rather than just adding a new box or copy-pasting the entire floor plan of where I actually live. Night 5 takes place in an attic with the first ever boss fight of the series. Here, the only enemy is Imposter Mouse, and you have to track him as he moves rapidly around the room so you can shine your flashlight on him. Boss fights would appear a few more times in the series, though they'd mostly be variations of this one. Honestly, FNAM 4 is probably the game I remember the least about. I don't even remember when it was conceptualized, though probably around spring of 2016. I mean, it was pretty much a direct copy of FNAF 4. Except it wasn't, because this was actually a clone of Five Nights at Sonic's 4! Similarly to Five Nights at Wario's, this was a fan game series that I had seen playthroughs of on YouTube at the time, though FNAF is probably much more similar to Five Nights at Mario's in terms of quality. The biggest difference between Five Nights at Sonic's and Five Nights at Mario's is that FNAF is an actual game rather than just a concept. If you want to know more about my experience and opinions of Five Nights at Sonic's, you could watch this behemoth of a video I made last Halloween. But listen, FNAF proves that my friends and I were not the only ones who just wanted to reskin FNAF mechanics and call it a day. FNAF 4, despite having the same style of gameplay as FNAF 4, takes place in an office, and instead of closable doors, you have to hide under a desk when the animatronics walk by. Now, this mechanic sucks. It doesn't matter which direction an enemy comes from because you deal with both directions in the exact same way. Hell, you don't even need to check the doors, just hide under the desk every time you hear footsteps. It isn't balanced at all by the equivalent of the music box, and so this game becomes incredibly boring. Perfect for Five Nights at Mario's! Yeah, I really don't have anything else to explain here. Besides having the smallest map in the series so far, there isn't really much else to say. If you've played FNAF 4, you already know what this game would be like, which is bad. Now, for most of the year after that, I kinda stopped coming up with anything new for Five Nights at Mario's. It probably hadn't helped that I changed schools that year, and so I would be seeing my original friend group less and less. And besides that, there weren't even any new FNAF games to copy from. I guess there was FNAF World, but that didn't really count. So it wasn't until after the release of Sister Location in October of 2016 that I would decide to come up with a FNAM 5. I never played Sister Location, nor would I ever play the FNAF games that came after it, meaning that FNAM 5 probably had the most original concept so far, even though it still took heavy inspiration from Sister Location. It takes place in the far future of, I don't know, the 2030s, didn't really matter, that still felt far off in 2016. It was supposed to have a futuristic sort of aesthetic. Now with the futuristic animatronics, whoa. The map looks a little disjointed in this one, with like the two halves of the map connecting by just a vent system. Like, really? The office had a hallway in front of you and two doors to your sides. You could only close one door at a time. This will become a very important mechanic later. And shine a flashlight down the hall or into the vent behind you. We didn't just have the futuristic animatronics to deal with, we had some newcomers as well. Sorta. This is where the most inspiration is taken from Sister Location, and also a bit from FNAF 4. In between nights were sort of repair minigames, where you had to fix an animatronic. Very similar stuff to what you actually do in Sister Location. Here's the difference. You get one shot at these minigames. If you succeed, you skip 2 hours on the next night, just like FNAF 4, but if you fail, that animatronic would get added in as a new enemy from that point onward. Kinda like FNAF 6, which hadn't come out yet. That's right, Scott stole from me this time! Never mind how Five Nights at Mario's wasn't a real game, like, let alone Five Nights at Mario's 5. I should have patented this idea while I had the chance. Of the animatronics that could get introduced through these minigames, I remember there being Dry Bones, Dry Bowser, and Shadow Mickey, a silhouette of Mickey Mouse who is actually Imposter Mouse's son. Don't ask how that happened, I couldn't tell you. This game ends in another boss night against Imposter Mouse. Survive, game ends, yippee, we're done now. Unlike FNAM 4, which ended on a cliffhanger, FNAM 5 had an actual ending, and therefore the series could come to a proper close. Perhaps it was time for me to move on to stupider ideas anyway, and that certainly did happen, at least for a year. Then in December 2017, FNAF 6 comes out, and that game attempted to conclude its series for what would totally be the last time, guys, we promise! And so I decided to do the exact opposite. Revive the conflict one last time for yet another ending that basically did nothing that the 5th game would have already done. Let me remind you that these games are not real, and that I was now 10. FNAM 6 was split into 2 parts for some reason, each with different gameplay. Part 1 acts like any other game in the series, your basic survival until 6 AM. Except this time you're in the protagonist's house, which suspiciously mimics the layout of FNAM 4, as well as every other FNAM game because I couldn't come up with an original map design to save my life, and pretty much every single animatronic from the series is after you. 90% of them work the same way though, and take the same paths because there's only like a couple of entrances, so it doesn't really matter. Part 2 is more of a point-and-click adventure game where you travel back in time to previous points in the series in an attempt to stop Imposter Mouse. Along the way, you're accompanied by the real Mickey Mouse. Yes, the real one. He dies at some point in the story. You kill Imposter Mouse, and we're done. It's over. No more imaginary games left. At least until Five Nights at Mario's The Lost Levels, which was intended to be this series' ultimate custom night with a map that looks like this and game mechanics that look like that, with the final showdown between Shadow Mickey and the freaking Five Nights at Mario's 2 phone guy, and a bunch of extra content that directly copied Five Nights at Sonic's Maniac Mania. And this is all in early 2020 when I was already 12 years old and in middle school, and then I was still making these stupid concepts for a game series that didn't exist. Okay, now we're done. Now, to go along with all this fake game was a horribly made story. It's not a FNAF game if there isn't lore, after all. Except, as you would imagine, it's kind of difficult to build on a story that was initially created by a 7-year-old and not concluded until almost 5 years later. It's also difficult to keep track of, since very little of it has ever been written down, and mostly just lives within the minds of the poor souls that I am forced to engage with all this. For the sake of archiving, I am now going to tell this story in its entirety in one take with no script from memory. It will be accompanied by visuals which I have specifically requested to match the quality of the story itself. This section will be quite long and even more rambly than this video has already been up to this point. So if you want to skip this, feel free to go to the timestamp on screen or use the chapter system in the video description to move on to my discussion of the YouTube series. Now then.
Okay, the plot, Five Nights at Mario's plot. Here we freaking go. So this is all from memory, with no script at all, because I thought it'd be funny that way. So we begin in like 2015. The plot starts in 2015, I think. Or like 2014, somewhere around that. So like Super Mario and his friends, they've been saving the day in the Mushroom Kingdom, and Mario is a very famous man. He's a famous man because of that. So he goes, there's this one warp pipe that connects the Mushroom Kingdom with Earth, and so Mario and the gang, they come to Earth through the warp pipe, and they're like, wow, we're so famous here because I don't know if it was because like the Mario games existed, or just because like Mario's like a international hero. But basically Mario and Bowser, they had become good pals at this point. Like Bowser stopped being evil for some reason, and like they went go-karting together, and they played tennis together, all the spin-offs, right? And they played Mario Party together. So Mario wants to cash in on this popularity of his by opening up a pizzeria on Earth. And so he does that, and he partners with Bowser in order to do so. Now, because Bowser's a good guy now. For sure, Bowser's totally good guy. Now the thing is that Mario is like, hey, you know what would be great? You know that Chuck E. Cheese down the street? You know how they have those animatronics at Chuck E. Cheese down the street? Let's do that. Let's make animatronics. But the animatronics are gonna be literally us. They're gonna just be us. Those are the animatronics, and we need someone to make the animatronics. So then Bowser's like, hey, listen, I got you, Mario. Or maybe you'd say in a bit of a deeper voice. Listen, Mario, I got it. I understand the kind of thing that you want, and I'm the designer of all the mechanics, all the, like, the Mecha Koopas in my army, in the airships. I was the designer of all those things, Mario, and I will personally build these animatronics for you, Mario. And Mario's like, okay, wow, that's so nice of you, Bowser. Thank you. And then Mario's like, you know what? Bowser. Bowser's like, you know what, Mario? You can go back into that pipe, into the Mushroom Kingdom. I have it all under control from here. You don't have to worry about a thing. I'll keep things going. I'll keep the animatronics. They'll be built. You can come back in a few days, Mario. You can check out the animatronics. They're very, very cool. Mario's like, wow, that's so nice. Okay, everyone else, let's go back into the warp pipe, into the Mushroom Kingdom. And Bowser says he can handle it from here. So Mario and all of his pals, go into the warp pipe, and Bowser's still on Earth, and then Bowser's like, now that Mario and the gang, they're gone, which means that I can do my evil stuff because I've been evil this whole time. I never became a good guy at all. I'm actually evil still. So Bowser destroys the warp pipe after Mario and his friends go through it, which means that Mario is now stuck in the Mushroom Kingdom and can no longer interfere on Earth. Like, the two places have been completely disconnected from each other. And so Bowser is like, I'll make some animatronics, alright. And, you know, he actually does go through with making the animatronics. He actually doesn't really do anything evil with the animatronics. But, because Bowser, his son stayed with him, Bowser Jr. And Bowser Jr. is like, hey, Papa, I want animatronics that are so real. I want to see the real Mario. I want it to be just like the real Mario. I want them to be alive. And Bowser's like, listen, Junior, son, that is not how things work scientifically. Like, I can't make animatronics just come to life. And then Bowser, okay, I don't really know what happens in this part. Now my mind kind of just goes blank here. But Bowser gets in contact with this entity, right? This entity is, like, he looks like Mickey Mouse, but he has, like, weird colors or whatever. His name is Imposter Mouse because he's not the real Mickey Mouse. And Bowser gets in contact with this entity, very powerful entity, and goes, listen, Imposter Mouse, how about I cut a deal with you? You make these animatronics come to life somehow, and I don't freaking know what I'll do. I mean, you want to be evil too, right? Like, we can be evil together. You know, we can work something out here. And Imposter Mouse is like, oh boy, this is finally my big break to be evil. Okay, yes. So they come up with this plan to ruin Mario's reputation on Earth by making his pizzeria go south real fast. And Mario won't be able to do anything about it because he's kind of in the Mushroom Kingdom, none the wiser, and can't even get back to Earth anymore. So really, it doesn't matter if Mario's reputation is ruined on Earth because no one in the Mushroom Kingdom is going to be able to know anymore, but whatever. So how do they go about doing this? Well, they want to cause an incident in the pizzeria. Also, the animatronics are now live. That is the case. We have a Mario animatronic, Luigi animatronic, there's a Toad one, he's got Toad there, there's Yoshi, those are the four great guys. So, how are we going to go about ruining the pizzeria? Well, Bowser, working with Imposter Mouse, comes up with this toxic gas. And this toxic gas, whenever someone inhales it, they fall into a deep sleep. It is actually a nightmare that they will never be waking up from. They will die this way, probably. They're not waking up from this nightmare when they get this gas. It is a horrible nightmare where it's like if you die in the dream, you die in real life. So, I mean, as long as, like, you're kind of in the hospital on life support and you're good at video games in real life, then you won't die in the dream. So you'll live as long as the hospital can support you. But, you know, as soon as you slip up, as soon as you get caught by this scary monster in your dream, you're dead, buddy. You're dead. So, now, the thing is, Bowser was working on this sort of stuff in his house. He was doing it in his home, because where else is he going to work on this stuff? All of his materials, all of his bases and locations, they're all in the Mushroom Kingdom, which Bowser can no longer have access to. Oops. So, Bowser's working on this toxic gas in his house, and something goes wrong, and Bowser Jr. inhales the gas. Bowser Jr. ends up in a scary nightmare, and he dies, and Bowser's like, no, my son, grr, this is all Mario's fault, even though Mario had literally nothing to do with this. This is just Bowser backfiring his own plan to sabotage. So then Bowser's like definitely gonna go through this toxic thing now, and so what he decides to do is there's this night guard, or not even a night guard, it's more of a day guard, my bad. There's a day guard working at the pizzeria. His name is Daniel. We just pulled names out of hats to decide the names of all the human characters. So Daniel is a day guard working at the pizzeria, and then the toxic gas comes into the vents, into the office while he's working, and he gets put in a nightmare. And the nightmare he has is Five Nights at Mario's 4. So all the animatronics and the other people working at the pizzeria are like, oh god, oh no, oh dear, oh geez. And so then they're like trying to keep Daniel alive in the real world, but eventually he does die. Oops, I guess. So now that Daniel's dead, this pizzeria closes down. And then not much happened. But then, in around like 2016, early 2017 maybe, scientists discover something crazy. See, Bowser had to basically make a deal with the devil, who is an inverted colored Mickey Mouse for some reason, in order to make the animatronics come to life. However, scientists have discovered a special chemical compound
we just thought science worked like this, that was able to bring anything to life, as long as it was like, vaguely humanoid. If it looks like something that would be able to talk, we can make that thing talk. Alright, that's what the scientists were able to do. This material, of course they would give it to Bowser. No one ever found out that Bowser was responsible for Daniel getting killed and shutting down the pizzeria. He was still seen as having turned over a new leaf. So, of course, Bowser gets access to this stuff. And he gets to run the pizzeria now because the warp pipe that goes back to the Mushroom Kingdom is mysteriously gone. So Bowser basically owns this company that Mario and him started. So now Bowser gets to do more sabotaging of Mario's reputation because, unfortunately, people attributed the tragedy that was that Dagard's death with, like, just a tragedy, not something connected to Mario. So Bowser's like, oh, I gotta do this again. And then, so he gets the compound because of his connections with, like, most people on Earth, right? He gets the magic compound, and in 2017, he opens up a new pizzeria, and now this one is like, he makes new animatronics for this one, and this time he uses the special compound to bring these guys to life instead of having to rely on Imposter Mouse. He doesn't need Imposter Mouse anymore. He's gonna do his own thing. Imposter Mouse doesn't like that. So Bowser gets killed in his own home just because Imposter Mouse is like, haha, I don't need you anymore. I'm gonna go be evil all on my own, huh? But so, like, Imposter Mouse realizes that Bowser already started something great, already gave him a great launching point to, like, be evil. So, like, he can just keep sabotaging the pizzeria chain under the new, much more faceless management. I don't know, you can put Wario as the boss or something if you want. And now Imposter Mouse can just, like, have all the tragedies stem from this brand. So he picks this random guy off the street. It's the creeper guy, as in he looks like a Minecraft creeper because he's a Minecraft creeper, and he's like, hey, I'm going to kill you if you don't do me a favor and be evil with me. And he's like, well, I do like being an alive person, so I suppose I'll help you out with that. So now they're gonna be evil together. And what are they gonna do? They are going to go to the, they're gonna go over to the pizzeria. They're gonna sneak in at night. And the creeper guy is going to go into all the animatronics one by one. Creeper guy, he attacks all of the animatronics, and he puts this little microchip in them that, like, makes them go crazy at night. And it's interesting because, like, remember, these animatronics are, like, alive, so this isn't as much hacking as it is, like, mind control. And so the animatronics, they don't like it. But, like, what are they supposed to do? Not kill people at night? So then there's this guy named Steve, and Steve is, he's like just some guy. And he was a fan of the Super Mario. He was a big fan of the Super Mario. And so, of course, with big popular people, there were plush toys. There was merchandise made of the Super Mario. So Steve, as a kid, had these plush toys of, like, Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Yoshi, coincidentally corresponding to the animatronics. And, Steve had this dream, especially, I mean, he was pretty much an adult when the first pizzeria opened up by then. But, like, when he saw the animatronics there being, like, alive, he kind of always thought about, man, as a kid, imagine, like, that would have been so cool if my plush toys came to life. And then scientists all of a sudden now have this compound that can just bring anything to life, and Steve wants that because, like, bro, they're selling this at, like, Publix. Like, it's just at your local grocery store. It's at your CVS. It's at your Walgreens. Like, you can just turn, like, anything to life nowadays. Which is the implications of that are never really delved into because, honestly, that is a horrifying concept. But whatever. So Steve wants to bring his plush toys to life, but he's broke. He dropped out of college. Can't find a job. What is he gonna do? So he becomes a night guard at the new Mario's Pizzeria. And then the animatronics attack him and such, and that is, like, Five Nights at Mario's 1. So Steve survives Five Nights at Mario's 1, and, despite how, like, it'd be so logical that after the first night, you would never come back, Steve comes back, and, he lives and stuff. So he gets the money, and, he uses the money to buy, like, little vials of cocaine. He kind of just pours it all over the plush toys. Right, now there's a living Mario plush, Luigi plush, Toad plush, and Yoshi plush. They're all alive now. Cool. I don't really know what Steve's gonna do with a bunch of living plush toys in his house now, but, that's what the spare bedroom is for. So now the plush toys are living happily in Steve's house, and then, like, the Imposter Mouse is like, uh-oh, this guy kind of found out about our scheme. Oh, sorry, Mickey Mouse voice. Huh? This guy found out about our scheme, and he's not dead yet. We need to find a way to bring him back to the pizzeria so we can, like, murder him and stuff. So how about this? Creeper guy, hear me out, creeper guy. I need you to go kidnap those plush toys, hold them for ransom, and then, like, coincidentally plant a newspaper ad for a new Mario pizzeria. They're opening up, like, literally 2 blocks away from the first one, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna look safer. It's not gonna be safer. We're gonna break the microchips the same. We're gonna do the microchip thing the same way. We're gonna be evil about it. Steve's gonna die. Problem solved. So creeper guy breaks into Steve's house in the middle of the night, kidnaps the plush toys, leaves a ransom note, places a newspaper ad, and Steve gets a new night guard job at a third Mario's Pizzeria. And this is Five Nights at Mario's 2. You got your toy Mario, your like, toy animatronics. We bring back the first wave of animatronics, the very first ones from the first pizzeria. They are now the Wither animatronics, and they are here too. We got Peach, that's a new animatronic right there. Just like before, Imposter Mouse has brought these animatronics to life, and Creeper Guy has hacked them, pretty much. So yeah, Steve is in danger. Now, right before night, 5, Steve goes back to the first
pizzeria to start getting some answers. See, why are all these animatronics trying to murder him? So he goes back and he goes to the not the first pizzeria, but like the second one, the one from the first game. Yeah. So Steve goes back to that one and he talks to the animatronics from Five Nights at Mario's one, the just Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Yoshi, and they're like, oh man, bro, we got hacked. I'm so sorry about that, my pal, my good buddy. And Steve's like, yo, it's fine, but could you do me a huge favor and help me deal with these new guys over down at the other pizzeria 2 blocks away? And they're like, yeah, sure, why not? So they go to the new pizzeria, and then on night 5, Steve has the four animatronics helping defend him against, you know, your Koopa Troopa animatronic, your Fire Mario animatronic, the Wither guys that I already mentioned, Peach, which I already mentioned, the toys that I already mentioned, yeah. And so Imposter Mouse is also there as well. He wants to kill Steve. Steve survives it anyways. Womp freaking womp. He gets the money. He pays off the ransom. He gets his boys back. Creeper guy dies because Imposter Mouse kills him because he was doing a terrible job at helping get Steve killed. And then they're all happy. And then like maybe like a week later, Steve is like, you know what? I'm going to go investigate what all this is about. I'm going to head over to Bowser's house, which has been abandoned, and I'm going to go into this house and try to find out what exactly is going on here, who's behind all this, what the hell an Imposter Mouse is, and why Mickey Mouse is the villain in our Mario FNAF story, what is going on. So Steve goes over to Bowser's house, and Imposter Mouse makes all the exits disappear, so now he's trapped in a house. Oops. So now he's got to survive 5 nights in the house with the ghost animatronics, which are basically Bowser's old prototypes. They're here. They don't really have a mind or anything. Imposter Mouse is like, haha, I'm gonna kill you. So Steve survives 5 more nights in this house, bro. Survived like the 2 weeks at this point. It ends with him in the attic. He like keeps shining a light in Imposter Mouse's face. This is 5 Nights at Mario's 3, by the way, in case I forgot to say that. I don't remember if I forgot to say that. He freaking shines a flashlight in Imposter Mouse's face, and he's like, oh jeez. And then Steve sets the house on fire and it burns down. Imposter Mouse is presumably dead. Then that's the end of that one. I guess the villain's over now. And then Steve, like in 2018 or so, he gets back to the he's just kind of chatting with the animatronics now. I don't plug my headphones. Luckily it doesn't matter because it's just me yapping. So Steve freaking is in 2018. He like adopted some kid at this point because, you know, Steve is an adult. Make sure that's clear here. He like adopted a kid at some point, and he's gonna name that kid Luke or whatever, but that's not too relevant. That's just an aside that definitely won't matter for the plot later. No. And Steve is like being told a story by the first generation animatronics, the wizard ones, and the story they tell is how Steve learns about the events of Five Nights at Mario's 4, the very first part of the plot that we began with. And after that, Imposter Mouse just races to the building and reveals, yeah, I've been alive this whole time, now you die, and freaking kills Steve and takes over everyone else. They all die. Everyone died. You know, freaking oops, except the phone guy from Five Nights at Mario's 2, who I haven't actually mentioned yet. His name is Marcel. He wasn't relevant to the plot except for the fact that he kind of was dragged into like being in on the plot along with Steve, so he kind of knows what's going on. He's the only one that actually survives that encounter with Imposter Mouse. All the other characters either die if they were a living person or get hacked if they were an animatronic. Actually, the plush toys were at home when this happened, so they don't die. But now their owner is kind of dead, and so now they have to be taken care of by Steve's adopted son Luke. So we flash forward to like 2030 or so, like maybe 2035 if you feel like it. And Luke's an adult now, and it's the future. Things are futuristic, and by that I mean there's more purple on the wall, and even which doesn't matter because this animatic should be in black and white. So Luke is currently running. He now owns the pizzeria chain, and he is in his own pizzeria. He is currently hiding after hours because Imposter Mouse hacked into his own animatronics now. He thought he could escape the lore of his father and those who came before, but unfortunately not. Now, why is Luke being attacked by Imposter Mouse besides Imposter Mouse being evil and all that? Well, that's probably because Luke knows where the plush toys are because they're being kept at his house, and Imposter Mouse does not know where Luke lives, so he kind of wants to know where Luke lives so he can kill Luke and also find the plushies, destroy the plushies, and all the loose ends have been tied up, and he can go on like torturing some other people or whatever. He's kind of been wrapped up in this for a while. So he has to get Luke, and Luke is hiding inside of his own pizzeria in his own office. So that's 5 Nights at Mario's 5. Imposter Mouse is hacked. Luke's own animatronics. You got the futuristic Marios, the futuristic Luigi's, you know, from Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Yoshi. So always just add a new adjective in front of their names, and that's that game's animatronic lineup. You got some new ones too. You got Tri Bowser, that's an animatronic. You got Tri Bones, I think. Imposter Mouse has a son now. I don't know how he did that. He has a son. His name is Shadow Mickey. He's literally like black and white. He's literally like a pitch black silhouette of Mickey Mouse with 2 white eyes. And he's just like, Father, can I go join the kids playing baseball outside? And then Imposter Mouse is like, no, Mom, even at me. And Shadow Mickey's like, yeah, bet, I guess. So you got Shadow Mickey to deal with. Then Luke uses the power of like being stubborn when it comes to letting himself die to defeat Imposter Mouse. But he doesn't even destroy anything this time. He's just like, nah, I live, and it lives. So Luke decides to be like, okay, I'm done with this. Man, I know I'm in like my early 20s, but I'm retiring from all this. I'm just gonna go chill out at home with these plush toys. Sorry, this plot is getting long. I'm yawning now. With these plush toys that like he has from his father, who are still alive. And then Imposter Mouse follows him home, and now we have 5 Nights at Mario 6. This thing is still freaking going. And in 5 Nights at Mario 6, Luke gets attacked by like every single animatronic in the whole series in his house, and there's like they're all there, and which is not good. And Imposter Mouse set all of them together. Meanwhile, Mario, because it's the future, there's time travel now. So the Mario plush goes in a time machine and travels back to the past in hopes of like stopping Imposter Mouse at the source. So while Luke is providing a distraction by having himself be the target of Imposter Mouse's focus, where he sends freaking literally everyone at him, Mario the plush is traveling back in time, trying to find a mystery as to how to stop Imposter Mouse before this all began at the source. Along the way, he meets the real Mickey Mouse, like literally just Mickey. He's just there, like along for the ride. Like he joins Mario on the journey. Imposter Mouse kills Mickey Mouse. This is supposed to be a sad emotional moment. Mickey Mouse has been killed, and so Mario figures out that like if he just makes Bowser say no, then you know maybe he can stop Imposter Mouse. That doesn't really work out, so he just kills him like with like I don't know, you could say like a Glock if you want. It doesn't really matter how. Imposter Mouse is dead. And hooray! There's just one more thing left, which is Shadow Mickey's now evil, and Luke and the Mario plushies are like they're done. They're done. They're freaking done. They're moving out to like Idaho or something. They don't care anymore. So who's left to deal with Shadow Mickey? Well, remember Marcel, the phone guy who I barely mentioned. who's also the one guy who survived the attack from Imposter Mouse in 2018. Well, he is the protagonist of Five Nights at Mario's freaking Ultimate or something. Actually, the Lost Nights, some of the Lost Levels, perhaps. I actually can't remember what this one was called, but it's the last one. Trust me, we're almost there. This is 30 minutes! Oh my god! I just saw how long I've been recording. Oh my god, I'm so sorry for whoever has to animate this. So Marcel is trapped in, Shadow Mickey's brought back the toxic gas that Bowser made. Who's caught Marcel in a nightmare with, again, every single animatronic ever. All of them. The whole hair. And they all want to kill Marcel. And unlike, Luke, who was just doing this as a distraction while something else is going on, Marcel doesn't know if he'll ever be free. So Shadow Mickey openly shows up in the dream to taunt him, and then Marcel's like, "Mama," and destroys Shadow Mickey. Now it's over, and we're done, and we all get to go home. Ugh, that was truly awful.
In the long period of time between Five Nights at Mario 6 and the Lost Levels, something very important happened. In July of 2018, I began my YouTube channel, the very channel you're watching right now. And even at the age of 10, I was so proud of the story me and my friends had come up with that I wanted to show it to the world. In its earliest days, my YouTube channel consisted of the lowest quality game footage you can imagine and Mario plush videos, because of course it would. Some of my earliest memories on the internet were of channels like Goomzilla. Of course I would want to make this kind of content on my own. It's just that the plush videos I would make did not meet that sort of quality standard. But that didn't really matter to me back then. I could barely tell how bad they were. You'd think the lack of cuts would have given it away. And so, throughout October of 2018, I would release what would be Season 1 of Five Nights at Mario's on YouTube. It attempts to adapt the first game's story and mechanics in the same way my friends and I originally came up with the concept, acting it out of my house, using plush toys. And what can I say? These are terrible. Like, I mean truly awful. Even by my channel's standard at the time, these were bad. I apologize to anyone who dares get motion sickness because there's a whole lot of spitting and shaky cam. It shows Steve's first-person perspective of these nights in what is basically a found footage series with pretty much no editing. Like, there's an overlaid phone call, but for what would normally contain a cut, instead just has me cover the camera with my finger and run to where the next shot is supposed to be. There was constant background noise I attempted to play off as intentional, and I also forced one of my friends to be involved in this. So sorry, Penguin Boy 91. This is how you will be immortalized. To be fair, he was part of this series from the beginning, so he had it coming. There's no punching bag this time around, since it had been long gone for years by this point. So instead, every night acts a lot more like Night 5 did in the original concept. A single door to close. Except this time, while the lights do go out on Night 5, it was filmed during the daytime, so it didn't really make a difference. There's also these in-between night intermissions where Steve watches TV, and it's supposed to be a parody of gaming YouTubers at the time, but it's kinda hard to tell that's what it's trying to be when this is what you hear.
To the Roblox, today we're playing natural disaster survival. Oh, look, a tornado. Oh man, whatever.
Also, I haven't really been able to get into those phone calls, mostly because I don't want to.
Well, one day, Toad decided to go and pee on the floor.
I mean, even within episodes, I was getting lazy. Steve gets knocked out halfway through Night 2, then wakes up at 3 AM on Night 3, just so I can combine the two into one episode. At least we seem to have gotten a proper demonstration of Mario's mechanic, and Luigi gets chucked across the hallway.
Don't think I'm lazy. It's because I don't have that much time.
Oh, okay then, I could see that. I did upload this whole season in 1 month. Except then what is this description from Night 4 supposed to tell me? I mean, the phone guy...
Just died. The phone guy just died.
Yeah, that. But it happens completely off screen. And I just tell it to the audience right at the start of Night 4. Same thing with Steve apparently rescuing someone else trapped in the building on Night 5. Also, that song lasts a while. At least I get to punt a gas across the room. But yeah, Night 4 is just a constant fourth wall break, just so I wouldn't have had to actually make anything happen in the story. This wouldn't be the last time I do this, by the way. In Night 5, we do get to see Imposter Mouse, in case you wanted this fantastic character in action. I wonder if I thought this shot was creepy. Slap on a VHS filter and this would have done numbers in 2021. I do get into a fist fight with him, which is funny, but it ends as you would expect. Steve survives, gets his money, brings the plush toys to life. Totally expected. Can you believe that this is the predecessor to the very series you're watching right now? My first Halloween special, and it was just terrible. Like, I tend to encourage appreciation of our past efforts at creativity, even if they're rough around the edges. I think that is the main lesson to take away from this video, and it's a lesson I've repeated for a long time on my channel. But this series is an exception. This is by far the worst thing I've made in my channel's history. It doesn't even really deserve to be appreciated. I'm embarrassed by this. I think I'm gonna set this series to private after this video goes up. Trust me, I'm doing this for your own good. Besides, you've already had like 7 years to watch this. Season 2 of Five Nights at Mario's was intended to release the next year, but instead began in October of 2020. It was also supposed to be released in its entirety over the course of that month, but yeah, that didn't happen. The Night 0 prologue was on October 1st, then Night 1 on the 7th, but Night 2 didn't release until January of 2021. And Night 3, the final episode before the series was cancelled, took until March. Season 2 was an adaptation of, well, Five Nights at Mario's 2, duh, though presented much differently than Season 1. No longer found footage. Steve is also a plush, represented by an Enderman because I didn't have that many humanoid plush toys that weren't Mario. And it no longer even really tries to be scary after Night 0. And you know what? A couple parts of this, and I mean a couple, are actually kind of funny. I tried doing something slightly comical and it worked. The joke where Peach gets deleted from the plot due to budget cuts still gets a chuckle. I used to be so proud of that editing trick. I also got more of my friends to try voice acting for this, and while their audio quality left a lot to be desired, the quality of their performances certainly didn't.
I cannot confirm or deny if this will lead to death or not, but it kinda leads to death. I'm just saying, nothing confirmed here.
Pretty sure Bacon improvised that line. Even the between night intermissions are better. Bro, is Yoshi playing Dream Team? That's hilarious. This series also just stops trying to adapt the gameplay, focusing more on having an actual plot. Steve gets to properly interact with the animatronics rather than just shutting a door on them. There isn't even a mask. The fourth wall breaks are still here, including a whole episode where fourth wall breaks are the focus of the plot, but that's just par for the course. There's a cool little 6 a.m. chime now rather than just me doing it myself. As I keep watching this, I keep noticing more and more improvements from Season 1 that I honestly forgot existed. I mean, it's still bad, don't get me wrong. I tried including a romantic subplot that immediately got abandoned, and most jokes don't land, and the prologue in general is atrocious, but it's not as bad as I remember, which really impresses me. I kinda wish I did bother to finish this, especially since I still remember what was supposed to happen next. Basically, this series was supposed to have a total of 3 seasons, heavily compressing the later parts of the Five Nights at Mario's story into the end of Season 2 and most of Season 3. Right before the series got cancelled, I had attempted to shift the story from just copying the original 2015 plot into this more compressed version, but it's kind of hard to do that when the 2015 plot is as ridiculous as it is. You can kind of see the start of that attempt in Night 3 of Season 2, but it was too late by then. It's hard to really explain what was supposed to happen without showing it the old-fashioned way. That's right, I've kept these plush toys in my closet all of these years for a reason, and that reason was specifically for this. I've been planning this video for a long time. So what would have happened? I hope you've been paying attention so far, and none of this will make sense. On Night 4, Steve gets hit with that spooky nightmare gas, courtesy of Imposter Mouse. In his nightmare, which he experiences as a power outage version of the pizzeria with hyper-aggressive animatronics, Steve comes across Bowser Jr., who apparently has been here for years, though the setting of the nightmare has changed very recently. Meeting Bowser Jr. shocks Steve, since Bowser Jr. had died years ago in some freak accident in Bowser's home. Basically, Steve needs to convince Jr. that he's actually a ghost, so he can move on to the afterlife.
Dude, you're, like, actually dead? What? No, man. Oh, really? No, now I'm ascending into heaven. Dude, not cool.
While surviving everything in the nightmare pizzeria at the same time. He does so by the end of Night 4 and actually wakes up from the nightmare at the end. On Night 5, with that loose end tied up, Steve would have planned to tie up the remaining loose ends, that being Imposter Mouse and the hacked animatronics, by burning down the pizzeria. He's been breaking them out of their aggressive trances throughout the previous nights, but time's running out as Imposter Mouse has been taking notice. Steve attempts to convince these animatronics to come with him, so they don't have to die in the upcoming fire, but everyone instead agrees to remain to protect Steve from Imposter Mouse. As the building begins to burn, Imposter Mouse finally shows himself, leading to a final showdown where I specifically remember the Santa Esmeralda cover of Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood playing in the background. You know, like at the end of Kill Bill. Steve wins, Imposter Mouse dies, everything burns to the ground with Steve himself being the only one left alive. If I had the choice, the ransom payment for the plush toys would have been removed from the plot entirely, but since that's too big of a retcon, I would have come up with some lazy cop-out for how Steve gets the money to pay the ransom. Creeper Guy probably wouldn't have existed either if I could redo everything, but of course couldn't. That would have been the end of the story chronologically. Season 3 is meant to be a prequel, following Bowser Jr. Basically, Bowser invents the nightmare gas as a plan to sabotage Mario's successful pizzeria business. Things go wrong within Bowser's own home, and Bowser Jr. gets trapped in a nightmare. Bowser actually summons Imposter Mouse to make a deal with him to save his son. Imposter Mouse proposes a game where Bowser must survive 5 nights within his own home in what was basically an adaptation of FNAM 3, while Junior must survive 5 nights within his nightmare in what was basically FNAM 4. If both survive, then Junior lives. Bowser actually ends up failing, which is what causes Junior to die but not actually know he's dead because he's still in the nightmare, and for Imposter Mouse to go on to do evil things and stuff. Would have been quite the ending. On paper, the continuation of the FNAM YouTube series is cool. The problem is that it probably wouldn't have been that well executed. It was way too ambitious for what I could do at the time. Besides, the series was cancelled for a reason, the main one being that I was growing out of this stuff at 13. Night 3 of Season 2 was the 4th last plush video I ever made, with the actual last video being just a few months later. I think I'm pretty glad that this didn't end up being the totality of FNAM, because I wouldn't have been satisfied with it even back then. Up until this point, I've described Five Nights at Mario's as little more than an imaginary series of games that don't exist, as well as a poorly executed YouTube series. But that wasn't exactly true. In more recent years, I have attempted multiple times to turn FNAM into an actual, tangible game. That always felt like the end goal after all, it's just that I didn't really know how to make a game. I believe my first ever attempt was on Roblox back in July 2017, and I didn't even get past the default plate. Like, as soon as I realized that making Roblox games required knowing how to code, any chance of me making something then went out the window. I think I immediately gave up and filled the base plate with zombies. The next attempt was as a Minecraft map, and this one actually got a bit further along, as in there was an actual world made and I still have the world file. We can even get an exact date for when this world was made, August 25th, 2017. So let's see what we got here. Okay, well, this is it. The map is basic, but certainly recognizable. We've got the stage, Yoshi's Island, the bathroom, even the secret back room, though no vent. There's the office with what I think is supposed to be the punching bag. Instead of cameras, we just have this glass roof to stand on, and there's a daylight sensor which I think is meant to be used to mark the end of the night. And I guess that's it. After the Minecraft world, there was a pretty long drought for attempts at Five Nights at Mario's until 2022. Yes, 2022. I was 14 at this point, and we're still here. It was around this time where I decided that software engineering was something I wanted to pursue as a potential future career. And during the summer, I took a very short introduction to Java course. Like, it was just a couple of weeks. But I did learn the basics, enough to make something. Java isn't really the best programming language to make games. Minecraft is sort of an exception to that. Java's clunky, strict, and confusing. Like, why does printing text to the console require a magic incantation? I also knew literally nothing about graphics at all. And I don't just mean how to create a window or put moving images on the screen. I also mean that I can't draw to save my life. So even if I did know how to program visuals, I wouldn't be able to make those visuals myself. So, how was I supposed to make a Five Nights at Freddy's fan game with 2 weeks of programming experience, 0 artistic skills, and generally no idea what the hell I was doing? Make it text-based, of course! This Java game is the first version of Five Nights at Mario's that could be played from start to finish. And it's entirely text-based, everything is described through text, and the player has to type out actions. The mechanics introduced in this Java game would be reused in every other version of Five Nights at Mario's from this point forward. Its central focus is on 2 doors, left and right, with only one closable at a time via a lever, which is why I named this era of Five Nights at Mario's history the Lever Era. Pretty self-explanatory. Luigi goes to the left, Toad and Yoshi go to the right. Mario crawls into a vent, and you have to wait until he's about to exit that vent into the office, so you can flash him with your light to make him go away. Now, as you would expect, This format for the game is very, very clunky. Typing things out is annoying, especially since you have to keep retyping the same commands in order to refresh the cameras, the door lights, or the time. While time passes no matter what you're doing, literally nothing else does. This is because the code has to pause while it waits for you to enter a command. Now, if we look through the incredibly sloppy code, we can see that the game checks whether you've reached 6 AM before it checks whether you've died. Which means that you can start a night, sit there for 6 minutes, then type a single command and win every time. It doesn't matter if the game gets harder or even a little bit more fun, because you'll be hit with another example of just how bad the lever mechanic is that you'll eventually just get into cheesing the whole thing. The obvious flaw comes from animatronics showing up at the left and right door at the same time. What do you do then? Why, panic, of course. Nothing skill-based about that, it's just pure luck. Animatronics also have a chance to move every time the code loops, which is every time you type a command. So that leaves the very real possibility of an animatronic zooming towards you instantly with no time to react. But why would you want to sit through this game anyway if you're just gonna cheese it? The story? Well, the story finally got a complete rewrite here, told through giant walls of text that are supposed to be phone call transcripts. I tend to get carried away with this kind of stuff, just look at this script's word count. This story is basically about a warp pipe being discovered, connecting Earth and the Mushroom Kingdom, very similar to the earliest parts of the original story concepts. However, things change when the real Mario cast all go missing, and then boos start invading the Earth in a sort of quiet apocalypse. Like, Steven the phone guy are amateur ghost hunters that end up as the only survivors in their town. Things get crazy. This game also introduces a tradition in all the future versions of Five Nights at Mario's, a Night 6 boss fight against King Boo. On this night, you move to a secret room in the building behind the office, and your only enemy is King Boo. You have to search for him on the cameras when given the signal, and if you can't find him fast enough, he'll attack you from the doorway, and you'll have to shine your flashlight with limited battery at him as a last resort. It gets faster as time goes on, and some of the UI kind of distorts for an attempt at being creepy. Pretty neat, huh? Well, it would be if it wasn't for the fact that I just recorded my first playthrough in the FNAF Fan Games or Wack series, a playthrough of Five Nights at Candy's Remastered. And in that game is Night Null, a boss fight night against Shadow Candy, which basically acts the exact same way. Even in 2022, I was still just copying mechanics from much more successful fan games. Oops! At least there's a custom night you can unlock after Night 6, which includes a simplified version of King Boo's mechanics and a limited power flashlight to deal with Mario in the vents, which doesn't exist in the main game and pretty much makes things impossible on higher difficulties. It's a good thing we can just cheese the game to beat max mode by doing nothing in order to see the secret message at the end. For a first attempt, I can see the vision, but what I seem to have misunderstood was that the problems in the game came from the flawed game mechanics rather than the presentation. Let's face it, FNAM was never going to be scary, nor was it ever going to have a story that's better than just entertaining. At the worst, it would be laughable. So whether a version of FNAM can be good or not really comes down to the gameplay. And if the gameplay is bad, then the game is bad. But after I finished the Java version, I instead wanted my focus to be on an improved version with actual graphics. Java seemed a bit too inconvenient for my taste, so I decided to instead make the final version of Five Nights at Mario's in Python, a much more intuitive programming language. The thing is, though, that I didn't know Python, and wouldn't take the time to learn it for a while, but I already wanted to get my ideas out of my head and just away from text. I needed a prototype, just a basic version of Five Nights at Mario's to test the mere concept of FNAM with graphics and buttons and anything other than just text. The Five Nights at Mario's Scratch prototype was created in January of 2023. Yes, I used Scratch for this. The website intended to teach people programming through basic block code. It's incredibly simple, but for a game like this, it can get the job done. I mean, it's not like FNAF fan games haven't been made on Scratch before. This was never meant to really be a full game, but it is fully playable, just with no sound and graphics that are, yeah, I said I wasn't an artist. Though this wasn't really meant to be for anyone other than myself, at least until now. You would expect a point-and-click survival horror to use, the mouse. Yet this game just uses the keyboard, with controls that don't make a lot of sense and aren't explained anywhere. The only way I could check them was by looking into the code. The code is also a complete mess, but that's to be expected. I somehow turned the programming equivalent of Lego Duplo into whatever this is. At least once you figure out the controls, the game functions somewhat. It's the same mechanics as the Java version, even reusing the same password system, but at least here time passes properly. There are a couple of differences though. For one, there's now a map. The map's been redesigned, even if it's functionally no different from the previous layout. The animatronics still take the same path, just in a different shape. With this map, Night 4 can actually have a unique mechanic where the map is permanently stuck on the cameras and you have to drag it out of the way to see, which is kinda cool. Night 6 also functions completely differently. It's still a boss night against King Boo, but this time his mechanics revolve around him copying another animatronic based on his starting position. You also have limited power, but you can open both doors at the same time. Whoa! Some may point out the similarities between this boss night and that of Night 6 from Five Nights at Treasure Island. I wouldn't blame you for thinking that I copied this one too, like I have with so many original seeming mechanics. But I actually didn't play that game nor know about its final boss until August of 2023, months later. So for once, I can say with full confidence that this idea was completely my own! Finally, originality! He works the same way in the custom night as well, which clearly wasn't designed for a clone of the other characters' mechanics. I seriously tried to do max mode for a while, but it just wasn't working out for me. I could barely even make it to 2 AM, and a lot of the deaths just confused me. Like, if I'm mashing the button to shine the vent light, then theoretically I should never end up dying to Mario, right? You'd think that, right? I honestly believe the biggest problem with the gameplay is the lever mechanic. Having only one door closable at a time just doesn't really work, for reasons that should be pretty obvious, because I've already talked about them. But clearly they weren't obvious to me at the time. Except I definitely knew about them, as these versions of FNAM tend to have a sort of mercy system that kicks in when both doors are occupied at the same time, giving you just a couple of extra seconds to get one animatronic to leave so that you can flip the doors before the other one kills you. This mercy system typically doesn't apply to Yoshi, which breaks everything anyway, especially on higher difficulties. Even though I already knew just how flawed these mechanics were, I'd give things just one more shot. Just one more attempt to make a version of Five Nights at Mario's in the lever era that was playable and actually fun. And I would try it on a platform that very few would expect. A calculator. Okay, look, I've already talked before about my experience with making video games on a calculator, and if you want to see that, go check out this video here. But what you need to know is that at the start of 10th grade, I taught myself how to program in TI Basic in order to make my own games on my graphing calculator, the TI-84 Plus. If you watched my video on this, where I went through all the games I made, you may remember how I explicitly left out a certain game. The very first game I made on the calculator in September of 2023. This is that game, Five Nights at Mario's. Now, I know what this looks like, but trust me when I say that this was the best execution of the lever gameplay style up to this point. There's a funny little parody of the FNAF warning screen, and then your only instruction is to pass time to reach 6 AM. Well, that should be a given, huh? This version is much more arcadey, allowing the player to choose whatever night they want, no passwords needed. You can even play the custom night right from the get-go. And the custom night is more of the main focus here. There's no phone calls like the Java version or night exclusive mechanics like the Scratch prototype. So the numbered nights are basically just the custom night with preset difficulties. There's a score system too, based on the difficulty of all the animatronics. The score gets really low if even one of them is inactive, so you're encouraged to play with everyone activated, and the score increases really quickly as you increase those difficulties. The high score is actually the only piece of data that is actually saved in any of my calculator games. There's a certain letter variable stored on the calculator that not a single one of my other games uses, and that's because it's reserved just for saving the high score in this one. The game feels kind of rhythmic in a way. The calculator can only process a single button press at a time, and the action has to complete in its entirety first before you can press another button. Each action takes less than a second, but it requires your presses to be deliberate. All 10 numbered buttons are in use, 6 of those being for the cameras. Cameras don't update automatically, so you need to repress the camera button to see if anyone moved. Now, you're told these controls at the start of the night, so they aren't really confusing. And they don't really feel that clunky either. Like, of course buttons 1 through 6 check cameras 1 through 6. I don't need to input the Konami code or write a 5-paragraph essay to check on Yoshi's Island. And the biggest new mechanic comes from that instruction earlier. Pass time to reach 6 AM is worded kinda weird, isn't it? That's on purpose. Now, here's the thing. The game tracks time through something I call ticks, kinda like Minecraft. The code runs all the checks on whether animatronics moved, or if you're still alive, or if you've pressed a button once. And after all of those checks happen, a single tick passes. A night is 1,650 ticks long, and while these ticks do pass if you don't do anything, the length of a tick can vary. The player's actions or the animatronic's movement speed can slow the game down. But even if you do absolutely nothing, with all 4 animatronics deactivated, a night still lasts just over 8 minutes. Damn! But that's where the pass time mechanic comes in. If you press 0, then a couple ticks are skipped. So for example, if you're currently on tick 1000 of the night, pressing 0 jumps you straight to tick 1005. Press it again and you're on 1011. All the while, ticks are still incrementing normally in the background. And the animatronics don't move repeatedly to make up for the ticks you've lost. Time doesn't speed up. The night just gets shorter. And you can press 0 all you want, as long as you're not dead. If we try another night with everyone deactivated, but this time just match 0, the night lasts 2.5 minutes. I'm gonna go out and say it. This was one of the greatest game mechanics I'd ever come up with for this series. Quite possibly the greatest. It adds a new level of depth to what would otherwise be mostly the same monotonous gameplay from the other versions of Five Nights at Mario's, and encourages a gameplay style focused around risk. Risk isn't something FNAF games encourage too often. The best strategies are all about playing it as safe as possible and just guaranteeing your survival. But now, you don't want to just complete that night. You want to complete it as fast as possible. Is it better to put all your focus on keeping the animatronics at bay, or could you try to speed things up in the few moments of downtime between attacks? As the nights start to get longer and longer, since animatronics move faster and you're pressing buttons more rapidly, you have to keep asking yourself where the balance should be between survival and speed. I mean, max mode is absolutely brutal here. It takes forever even with passing time, since you basically have to be doing something every tick or else you're dead. These animatronics have a movement opportunity every tick, so while chances are small, there's nothing stopping them from rushing you in less than a second as long as they're activated. And while whether or not they move on a certain tick is never guaranteed, even on max difficulty, they still move incredibly fast, and the mercy system will not save you. So, do you want to tough it out in an ultimate endurance challenge lasting who knows how long, or try to make things just a little shorter? But max mode is beatable, as difficult as it is. I've already beaten it before. You can reach that highest score of 12,800,080, and boy is it satisfying, especially the secret message that appears when you beat it. There's still one more thing left about this game to discuss, and that is the boss night. Yes, that still exists in this game despite being able to start from whatever night you want. It's just that you have to unlock it. I can't even call it night 6 because in this game, the custom night is night 6. And I can't say what this boss night is actually called because I'll spoil how to unlock it. I actually want you to figure this one out for yourself, because I think this game is fun enough to be worth trying, at least once. I will be discussing the boss night itself though, which kind of combines the previous versions of the King Boo Nights from the Java version and the Scratch prototype, as well as incorporating mechanics from the 2015 concept. Wow! The map layout is changed to match the original 2015 map, yet King Boo copies another animatronic's path based on his starting position like the Scratch version. Yet you're supposed to shock him when he gets to the doorway like the Java version, yet everything uses a power like the Scratch version again. You also have to repeatedly check on the closet, which acts like a music box, calling all the way back to how Imposter Mouse worked in the 2015 concept for FNAM 1. This boss fight is actually really cool, even though the game doesn't do a good job of explaining it. Your clock even breaks after 3 AM, so you won't know what time it is until you beat it, which means that it's harder to pace yourself with power consumption. And just like every other version, King Boo speeds up as the night goes on. So yes, surprising as it is to say, the TI-84 Plus version of Five Nights at Mario's is actually pretty good. Its biggest issues just come from how it has to work with the game mechanics of the lever era, which were flawed from the beginning. Yet within those limitations, it handles things pretty well. The code is really sloppy, which makes sense considering that this is the first game I made on the calculator, but it still plays pretty well. We're not done here. We have just one more game to cover. One last thing to check out. Because the next year, in 11th grade, the big September 2024, I made a deluxe version. Five Nights at Mario's Deluxe was made for the TI-84 Plus CE, a more powerful calculator with a bigger screen and faster runtimes. With these features, I had the chance to improve upon the previous calculator version to make what is the best version of FNAM to date. There's a lot of new additions, so let's get into them. Nights are shorter in general. There's more ticks at night to account for the increased code speed, but since there's also less slowdown from button presses and animatronic movements, things are much faster paced in general. All the animatronic AI was also adjusted to balance out that faster speed. Each animatronic has a basic tutorial explaining how to deal with them. They appear on the nights that the animatronics are introduced in, as well as on the custom night. There's now a map on screen which allows you to visualize where the cameras are relative to each other and the player. It doesn't update or track the animatronics, just gives you a better perspective. The map even changes to reflect the altered map during the boss night. When you complete a night, the game now also tells you how many ticks you skip by passing time, further encouraging that speedier, riskier gameplay style, because it's actually measured now. The boss night now has clear instructions as well as a cool effect on the game over screen. There's now a Night 7, an endless mode where everyone starts at a difficulty of 0 and increases as the night goes on, allowing them to go past the custom night's max value of 20 if you last long enough. Now passing time has become even more of a focus, since doing so gets you a higher score directly. There are new secret nights besides just the boss night, which you are told how to access by beating said boss night. These add King Boo to the custom and endless nights, where he basically acts as a music box, which means that there's a true max mode where you can get a real maximum score of 320,100,000. This true max mode, FNAM's ultimate challenge, is ridiculously hard. But I was not gonna end this video without completing it. I made this after all. This series with its stupid mechanics and plot and characterization and prototypes, and now this. So, could I do it?
Oh my god. I did it. I freaking did it. Well done. That's it.
Yes, of course I could. One more feature I forgot to mention until now is that you get to watch your score tick up after completing a night, which takes a long time after beating True Max mode, which makes it all the more satisfying, along with a second final secret message. Five Nights at Mario's Deluxe is the conclusion to the lever era, an idea which sounded kinda cool, but was horribly flawed, and I think it executed it the best with what it had to work with. I actually really recommend playing the calculator versions of Five Nights at Mario's, which you can do with the link in the description. And so, we finally reached the end. This video has been so long, but I'm really glad that I got to get this all off my chest. Five Nights at Mario's has been a concept that has planted itself in my head for 10 years now. And now that adulthood is just over the horizon, I don't regret looking back over a concept that was so ridiculous, yet a constant in my life. This is when I would usually give my spiel about creating and such, but I've done that so many times recently that I don't think I need to repeat it. Besides, I hope that, as I've shown you the good, bad, and ugly of my creations around just this one idea, you mostly take away what came from the good. And that drive to create more from an idea this silly hasn't gone away, surprisingly enough. Whether you consider it a good or bad thing, Five Nights at Mario's isn't over just yet. I'm sorry, I seem to be getting a phone call. Oh? Hey, so I just wanted to make sure you're still in for the abandoned arcade? What? Who is this? Is this not Alex's number? We're supposed to be ghost hunting tomorrow night, 12 a.m., ring a bell? No, it doesn't. I'm pretty sure you got the wrong guy. Oh, my bad. Wait, why do we sound so similar? Don't think about that too hard. Goodbye! Wait, how did he call an arcade machine?